Hi, this is Steve. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review. In this video, I'll be building the Ghostbusters Ecto-1 from Eaglemoss. I am on issue 6, stage 15. Welcome back. Let's look at issue 6 of Build the Ghostbusters Ecto-1. And as I open this up, remember we received 4 stages with this issue. So in this video, I'll just be building stage 15. I'm going to skip over the other instructions that are involved in this issue and take you right to the articles. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Eaglemoss Ghostbusters Ecto-1. This is a huge model. Don't pass it up. It's fantastic. I'm having a blast building this. So as you can see in stage 15, we were going to be assembling, once again, parts of the front suspension. And looks like we're looking at the right-hand side of the suspension here. You skip forward here. And stage 15, right front suspension and tie rod. So we have a lot going on here, a lot of metal parts. We'll be using some lubrication. We'll be using the Vaseline. It's safe to use. Hypoallergenic, so it's harmless to you. Then using some of those other oils out there out on the market. And we'll do actually 6 parts to this, and that will complete the front suspension after we get done with this. Skip forward, and the first article we come to is the attack of the Terror Dogs. And this stop-motion animator Randy Cook and puppeteer Mark Wilson and Tim Lawrence reveal how they brought the snarling Terror Dogs to life. So there's quite a big article here about that. So this is worth getting this subscription just to be able to read about the what's going on in the background with all the special effects and some of the real-time studio models that they used during the filming of this movie. So we have 6 pages of that. Fantastic there. Moving on, they have an article about Elmer Bernstein, and he made the original score of Ghostbusters. And how many of you actually have the original score in your collection? I think it's cool. Very good music there. So we have a few pages of that. And lastly, we have Ecto 101, where they get into the TV broadcast edits. And during a TV broadcast, they have to edit out some of the bad language, and there's many different versions out there. So it's interesting to know how many of you have actually seen all the different versions on TV where they edit out some of the the language. So then they give you a preview of what's coming in issue 7 here. So let me get the parts out for stage 15 and we'll get started. With issue 6, we also received this very cool hat. So that's kind of nice to have. And also with stage 6, we received another binder for our magazines. Here's the parts for stage 15. And got a lot going on here for the right suspension. So I'll go ahead and take these out and we'll get a closer look. Here's a close-up of the parts. We received the right tie rod, the lower suspension arm, shock absorber shaft, upper suspension arm, lower suspension knuckle connector, upper steering knuckle connector, coil spring, the rubber bumper, mounting brackets, steering knuckle, backing plate, and drum, the brake drum itself. I'll go ahead and pull out the screw packs and I'll show you those next. We received a lot of screws with this issue. We received EM, GP, HM, HP, IM, JM, and KM. Step 1, we're going to assemble the lower suspension arm. So I have the arm mounted in my bench vise. It's just so much easier to do this. It's like a third set of hands. We also have 15F, which is this piece right here. Now we're going to be putting in EM screws, 2 of them, and they're going into metal. So to make the job easier, I'm going to use my Vaseline that I always use to lubricate that part. Do both sides here because the screws go into this. Very good there. And these parts are marked with an R, so in case you have everything out of the bags, you know what's right and what's right. So both these parts have that on them. So it's actually screwing in to the knuckle there. So I'm going to go ahead and lubricate that also. Very good. And we'll get that started. Just makes it easier. Once the threads are cut, it's real easy after that. You're less apt to break the screws off. And there we go. Next we mount this bump stop into that hole right there, and we're to be putting a GP screw into that. So our GP screw will go into this, holding that bumper stop. Let me reposition this so you'll be able to see it better. This is the top side of the suspension arm. We're going to put the bump stop in place where it needs to be and insert our GP screw. Perfect. Take it out so you can have a better look at it. That's the screw, and there's the bump stop. Now we assemble our lower suspension arm. Once again, we need to lubricate these points here on the narrow end of it. Put some Vaseline in there. And it doesn't hurt to put some in here, just to have that lubrication available for a little bit later. And we're going to use EM screws again for this. And to make it easier, you could actually just get both sides started. Get them threaded on there. Do the other side. Just like that. And then we put our arm on there. Thread it all the way down. Do the other side. And there it is. Now let's do the other end. Next, in step 2, we install this 15D shaft, and it doesn't go like this. You want to make sure you have this beveled edge showing on top. These are going to be facing in a downward motion, and it's simply going to go right in here, right in between. So, same thing, we are going to be using screwing in to metal, and I'm going to go ahead and lubricate this. And I'm just going to get them started again. Actually came out of the vise, but that's okay. I've got it to a point that I can screw it together here. And there we go. Looks good. Step 3, we need to get our frame that we assembled in previous issues, and to get it ready I'm going to flip it over, because we're actually going to start installing all the components on the right side here. Now, starting with step 3, we'll install the lower A-frame, and that's going to get inserted in right here. And we're going to be putting in HM screws into this, so we need to go ahead and lubricate these two holes here. Once that's in place, we insert that into those holes, just like that. We need to turn it over and install our 2 screws, HMs. I'll get one started and the next one started. Tighten those down, both of them. And there we go. That is in place. Looks great. Next we install this one here onto that, just like such. Looks like it goes just like that on that lip. We have these two brackets that hold it in place. We will be using IM screws for this. So I'm going to lubricate these really good here. And these brackets just go just like that. Put one in. Let me get the other one started. Get all four started. Get them all tightened down. And there it is. With step 4, we assemble the brake drum. Now on the spindle here, there's actually a detent that the brake drum mounts to. There's a little detent there on the side, and if I turn over this portion of the drum here, which is part number 15L, that just lines up to that detent. There's one on the back side there, right there on top. We'll line that up until it falls into the detent. There we go. And we put in two EM screws. Now we're going into metal, but I've already lubricated those points. Start the other one. Tighten them both down now. Really easy to do here. There's that. Next, we want to turn this over to where it looks just like that with the connector for the spindle off to the side. And we have our brake drum as such with our tensioner on top. That goes into a detent also. This time they want us to put 3 HP screws in. So we'll do that. HP meaning we're going into plastic. And the last one. All tight. Now they want us to mount this to our frame. Bring that over. So this mounts just like that on top, or actually goes on top of it, just like that, and our screw goes into it. We'll be using a JM screw. We need to go ahead and lubricate this. Because our screw goes into that. JM screw is pretty big. This mounts right on top of that. Put our screw through it. And feed it right in. Okay, looking good so far. Here's our spring, and that actually goes down inside of here like that. This goes down on top of it. We squeeze it together, and we got to put a screw in on the other side. We put an IM screw on the other side of the spindle. This IM screw looks like that. It's not quite as long as the other one. We'll squeeze this together, turn this over. We are going to put a screw into this. I need to lubricate it. Bit of pressure here. Okay. So it threads in through this first. There we go. Bend this down here. Get everything lined up. Use the bench to my advantage and get this started. So it's an IM screw. Good. That looks great. Okay, next we need to install this shock, and it goes in on the top side here, and you can see there's a keyway here. It lines up with the other keyway. Go ahead and put some lubrication on this. That through just like that. We will be using a HM screw for this. Turn this over. And that was simple enough. Fed right into the shock. And we'll tighten that down. Perfect. Now in this case we want to make sure our tie rod, the connector, is facing downwards, so it can go into our spindle here on the end. So that way it goes right in just like that, and then it connects to our other part of the tie rod just like that. Okay, so we want to do that part first, where it goes into that part of the tie rod. Be able to lift it up so we can get a screwdriver on it. Once again, we need to lubricate this where the screw goes into. And I'm going to go ahead and take my screw, just like before. I'm going to put it through first. And get it to where I can hold it also, line it up, and get it started. There we go. Don't want to go too tight with it. And then we put it on the spindle on the left side of the chassis, and we can just flip this over now. Flip it over. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and lubricate this. This time we're going to use a KM screw. It has a very wide head on it. Screw that until it's tight. There we go, all tight. And that completes stage 15, where we assembled the left front suspension. I have to say it was a little bit easier this time because it's our second time around with the suspension, and everything went together just as advertised with the instructions. So I'm very pleased with that. This is a lot of fun. This has been a joy to do. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe and hit the bell for all notifications. Head over to Eaglemoss today and subscribe to build the Ghostbusters Ecto-1. It's a fantastic build. You will not regret it. With that, happy modeling everybody, and take care.